All right, let's talk about the FBLA Organizational Leadership Competition. You've seen the guidelines. You know there's a ton of material to cover. So how do you actually conquer it? Well, you don't just study. You build a playbook. And right now, we're going to build that winning playbook together.
I mean, seriously, the official guidelines have 22 different topics, everything from motivation theories to crisis management. That is a lot. And here's the kicker. The test isn't just going to ask you for definitions. Nope. It's going to throw scenarios at you and ask you to apply that knowledge. So, what's the game plan for that?
You build a playbook. Seriously, think of it like a coach's game plan. It organizes all those different theories and ideas so that when you see a tricky situational question on the test, you know exactly which play to run. We're going to break this playbook down into 4 key sections.
And our very first play is the foundation for everything else. Know yourself. Because before you can even think about leading a team, you have to understand the mind of a leader. This is all about getting that internal framework right, which will guide every single answer you give.
So, we start with self-assessment, but for the FBLA test, this isn't about your personal strengths, it's about understanding the internal landscape of an ideal leader. You got to know what great leadership looks like from the inside so you can spot the right choices in those test scenarios.
These right here, these are the tells. When a scenario asks you to pick the best leader or the right course of action, the correct answer is almost always going to be the person who shows initiative, who acts with integrity, who bounces back from problems. Think of these as the absolute bedrock of good leadership.
Okay, this is a classic FBLA concept, so pay attention. A leader's whole style comes down to their core belief about people. A Theory X leader, they think people are lazy and need to be micromanaged. A Theory Y leader, they believe people want to do a good job and trust them to do it. That one fundamental assumption changes everything.
Okay, so once you've got the leader's mindset down, it's time for play number 2, master your tools. This is your toolkit of theories and styles, the specific things the leader uses to get the job done, depending on the situation they're in.
The test is absolutely going to give you a scenario and ask you to pick the right tool for the job. You know, is the team in a full-blown crisis? Well, an autocratic style might actually be the best bet for a quick decision. Is the goal to get everyone fired up about a new vision? That's when you pull out the transformational style, knowing that best for column is your secret weapon for these questions.
You know, power is way more than just a fancy title. A leader's real influence comes from a bunch of different places. Sure, you've got the formal stuff, like your actual position or the ability to give raises, but you also have personal power, which comes from just being really good at what you do or from being someone people genuinely like and trust. The best leaders, they know how to mix and match all of these.
And here it is, the master key for the entire test, contingency theory. If there is one single thing you take away today, it's this. There is no one-size-fits-all in leadership. The right answer always depends on the situation. This theory is what connects everything else, and it forces you to think critically instead of just memorizing words.
All right, we get the leader's mindset and we have our toolbox. Now it's time to actually put it to work. Play number 3 is all about applying that knowledge to the people, to your team. We're talking motivation, relationships, and getting everyone to work together.
This quote, this is basically equity theory in a nutshell. It just means that people want to be treated fairly. It's that simple. If someone feels like they're putting in way more work, their inputs, than what they're getting back in rewards, their outputs, especially compared to their coworkers, their motivation is just going to tank. A good leader gets this and keeps things balanced.
LMX theory is really cool because it zooms in on individual relationships. A leader doesn't just have one generic relationship with the team. Nope, they have a unique two-way street with every single person. When those relationships are high quality and built on trust, you get amazing performance. When they're not, well, that's when you get an outgroup and motivation problems.
This distinction pops up all the time, so make a note of this one. A group is really just a bunch of people. A team is something special. They're all aiming for the same goal, they have skills that fit together, and here's the most important part. They hold each other mutually accountable. A leader's big job is to turn a collection of individuals into a real team. For our final play, we are zooming way out to the biggest picture possible. Because leadership isn't just about managing your immediate team, it's about steering the whole organization through huge challenges, like a major crisis or a big change. This is all about strategic leadership.
When a crisis hits, you can't just be making things up on the fly. This 5-step process gives you a clear, logical plan. For your test, knowing these steps in order is a really good idea. It shows you understand that managing a crisis is a structured process, not just a frantic reaction.
You can't just send out a memo about a big change and expect everyone to get on board. Lewin's model here shows you first have to unfreeze the old way of doing things. Help people understand why the change is needed. Then you actually introduce the change. And finally, and this part is crucial, you have to refreeze the new way so it becomes the new normal. Unfreeze, change, refreeze.
And underneath all of this strategic leadership is ethics. An ethical leader isn't just a good person. They actively build a culture where integrity is the norm. So on the test, be on the lookout for leaders who take responsibility, who show some courage, and who create a place where everyone feels included. That is the foundation of any organization that's built to last.
So we did it. We've built our playbook, we've got our 4 core plays that cover yourself, your tools, your team, and the wider world. Now, for the most important part. How do you actually use this to crush it at the FBLA competition?
Here's your strategy. First, always think in scenarios. For every single concept, ask yourself, what would a test question about this look like? Second, connect the dots. How does a leader's theory why attitude from play 1 lead them to use a servant leadership style from play 2? And finally, just focus relentlessly on application. The whole point is to prove that you can use this knowledge to make smart decisions.
So there you have it. The knowledge is organized. The game plan is clear. You literally have the playbook to ace this competition. The only question left is, what's your first move?